What's up, everybody? We're back. We're going to be going into the first match in our show match of the night. I'm excited.
Okay.
I'm so happy to be casting again, and it's cool to have all these different players from different eras. It's good to have SKT and KT back again.
This is fun.
This is nice.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And I like that there's a mixture. Like we have some players we have 4 players that are in really great form. We brought back a StarCraft 2 legend. See how he's doing. Hoja, who is a gym trainer now.
Yes.
And then a couple oldies. Oldie
Right.
but goodies.
Right. So we're going to see exactly who's playing who first. There's the possibility of some, I think it's fair to say, major mismatches here, depending on who faces who. Even if you just have to go against Flash, we know that's a mismatch, generally speaking. But really, though, some of these players, very old school, took different courses in their life. Different trajectories is what they were following after they were done with their competitive careers. Some of them, again, coaching or casting or being a personal trainer. So we'll see
That's right.
how they perform. Again, though, there is the possibility with Remastered being out and there being a very available ladder, which, by the way, is so nice to have after not having that in StarCraft 1. It's possible these guys are in better shape than we expect, and I'm also very curious to see how Sue's going to play, coming from StarCraft 2 back into StarCraft 1.
Absolutely. All right, so this kind of just shows what is going on here. We're going to have all 5 sets. That includes an ace match at the end. After each game, the team decides which player plays next. The player once played cannot join the next game. Of course, set 5, like I mentioned, anyone can play. New Empire of the Sun, New Bloody Ridge, Alternative La Mancha, Circuit Breakers. Got to get that Circuit Breakers in there.
Got to put that in there.
10 million won prize pool.
The ladder people need it, Artosis. They demand it.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's not Fighting Spirit, you won't hear me complain too much.
Yeah. Oh, we've definitely had enough Fighting Spirit.
I had enough of
That would
that.
be okay.
My spirit doesn't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
And it looks like Champion Prize, Geekstar customized trophy PC, sick. Also, 2 million won per set and 10 million total. Oh, well, I guess that's how it breaks down probably, right?
Right.
Well, it says win bonus for each set, so maybe it's actually 10 million won plus 2 million per set, so that's 20 million total being given away.
Dollars.
And a Geekstar customized trophy PC.
I'll
Jeez,
take that.
tasteless. I turned on my PC this morning. The sound didn't work.
Okay, so
I
here's
need that PC.
Here's our first matchup. It's going to be Bisu versus Action. Now, this is going to kick so much ass. Bisu is looking very strong, but Action absolutely could take this one. Action's so smart.
He's in
so
good shape,
capable.
too. Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Look at that. They're at their little team desks and stuff. Oh, this feels nostalgic as hell.
Some walk down memory lane here.
Yeah.
One with the Ultralisk plushie, the other with the Reaver plushie.
Well, if it's Reavers versus Ultras, I guess that is pretty good for Protoss, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to send our first players out. SKT starting with their best player. Action has been in phenomenal shape. He's continued to prove himself throughout 2018 and 2019. He was an excellent player. And so let's see what exactly he's able to pull off this time around. Bisu's been streaming a lot. I think it's pretty clear what his approach is to PvC. But I would say with a player like Bisu, you can know what he's doing and it doesn't really matter. Mechanically, he's so strong and he's so good at his engagements that he really is one of the few Protoss players that seems capable of just overpowering a Zerg, especially with his pushes and his harass.
For sure. I'm excited to see it because here's the thing. Like, I know Bisu's back and I know he's in good shape. I hear people talking about it, but honestly, I don't get to watch him very much because I spend all my time watching T.E.N streams. So I'm excited to see how he does here against Action.
Hey, this is a real thing when you're playing StarCraft 1. I am completely in the Protoss universe, Artosis. I don't know what's going on with the Zerg players and the Terran players.
Yeah. I try to watch some, but
it's hard to keep up.
It is.
There's so much content out there now.
Yeah.
It's never been a better time to be a fan of esports, especially a fan of StarCraft. You can always turn on a stream and see a top-tier player playing. There's tournaments constantly coming out here, tournaments for the very best, show matches like this one, tournaments for amateurs to compete with in Korea, even some outside Korea, mostly online, though. And so, let's see how Bisu does here. I think it's safe to say he's supposed to win, but Action could absolutely take this, and if he did, we shouldn't be that surprised.
Oh, certainly. Action has been doing better and better each season. He's in good shape. He's practicing really hard. And, you know, new players do rise up, even though when I say new, of course, he's been a pro over 10 years at this point. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, seeing what Bisu's shape is looking like at the moment on the big stage. But yeah, Action, such a hard worker. You can see he just started to have real results towards the end of StarCraft 1's old professional era. He came out of the military and immediately made it into ASL, and has kind of been climbing the ranks through that, getting better and better results. Says specialists of utilizing Defiler, definitely would agree. Acted in movie when I turned 9. Really? I had no idea about that.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, let's see what happens in this game. PvZ is a matchup where it seems oftentimes the Protoss is required to win with some type of a push. The Zerg can get very deadly as the game gets longer and longer out unless the Zerg's taking a lot of damage. This is going to be fun. There's also the opportunity for both races to try to cheese each other out. I don't think we're going to have that on either side, especially on this map, but let's leave it open. Maybe it's possible. Sometimes crazy things happen. But, yeah, I mean, let's just see. If we're just getting things started here, the players are getting set up in their respective booths, and we're going to be jumping into this best of one.
All right. I'm excited for it. New Empire of the Sun.
Yes.
I can't bring the map to my mind actually right now. I'm trying to. I remember the name, but I can't remember exactly what it. Well, I guess I saw the.
You saw the picture, but
yeah. I don't remember it.
Most
very
likely,
clearly.
if we're gonna have a standard matchup here, it's gonna be the Protoss fast expanding here, and the Zerg probably trying to take 3 bases. But our game is ready. It's getting loud in here. It's completely packed here in the Nexon Arena. Bisu versus Action starts now.
Those old school cheers, I love it. So down to the bottom right, we have Bisu. Right there. Top right, got Action.
So we have both players hugging the right side of the map here. And this is a map that is a 4-player here, so different rules have to be followed here on 4-player maps. The Protoss has to be ready to scout early enough. Sometimes you'll see double scouts on 4-player maps just to ensure that they will not be too surprised by any Ling rushes, or even, let's say, a 3-hatch or something weird like that. Again, it filled up almost immediately here when we opened the doors. Not surprising. StarCraft 1, you know, so much history with this game, but people are just such fans of these players. You know, people have grown up following this game, and it's still alive here today and still doing well.
Well, you know, of course there should be fans down here as well. These are some of the most storied players.
Right.
Of course, if you're a Protoss player and you don't wake up every day and thank the Lord that Bisu existed and made it so that PvZ was actually playable, because, like I mentioned, until he rolled around, Reach was, his back hurt from carrying the Protoss race with 2-gate Zealot openers.
Oh, you know, it's funny because the way that Protoss had to play at that time was such a wonky, just kind of inefficient, janky way to approach the matchup. And getting confirmation that you could fast expand and then tech into that. It wasn't just purely taking a quick Nexus that was a lot of times laughed out of the room strategically. It was the idea that you wouldn't have to then immediately make 3 or 4 gates and try to power through because you're using the extra minerals. Instead, you could tech into Corsairs, get Dark Templars, get High Templars, maybe get Zealots with speed. But Bisu was the guy that really mastered, I guess we can call it, the balancing act of PvZ in the early game. The Protoss has to have basically exactly everything balanced out here, or the Zerg will topple them. And he showed that you can do that. Now, in this case, he's going with a gateway first into expand opener. This is one of the 2 more common fast expand builds that are out there here for Protoss. The other would be Forge into Nexus.
Well, sending that first Zealot up, he's scouting Action last year, but he's not going to be surprised with what he finds. Pretty normal stuff. A little bit of drone micro there, just slowing that Zealot down.
Yeah, got to be careful. Bisu's very quick at flicking that Zealot into an attack over there. So some Lings are coming down here now as well. And, you know, when the Protoss does this, you want to get a very solid read early on how many lings they're making. If they're under making, you push in. If they're over making, sometimes you'll turn around. In this case, due to the ordering of when he made what, the Zealot can actually get in here and start to hit these drones. So he'll be going behind the minerals shortly here when those Zerglings come out. We're seeing that happen right now.
Yeah, you also saw Action hitting some of the drones multiple times so that he could line up possible kills by hitting with just 2 shots with the Zealot, but doesn't work out. Good micro here from Action. Makes enough Zerglings and is chasing the Zealot away.
There's always the right amount of Zealots to attack in there with, and this keeps the Lings back because if the Zerg were to ignore this, they'd lose all the drones. Behind this, the Protoss has to very, very carefully cover his expansion up, and one gating is a lot harder than it looks, because if you lose one Zealot too quickly in any one point, the Zerg seizes control of the game and sometimes can kill you with a counterattack. Now, this time around, we have Bisu not killing drones, but buying time. And notice how he wedges the Zealot in between these little areas where you can fight the Lings in hallways, in narrow areas. Is he going to get the cannon up in time here? There's not quite enough to actually do a full block. It's worth pointing out that Bisu has to handle this very carefully.
He needs to hold position of probe in that wall as well.
Yeah, this is
Could get in trouble.
A little bit alarming. Now, there's not quite enough Lings, I think. And this is because Action's a good player. A lot of lower tier players will just overmake Lings, and sometimes that's when the game ends. But Action knows the odds of him really breaking Bisu with the kind of control he has is probably unrealistic.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of Lings out right now. More than I thought you would actually make this extra group coming up. That seems like he had an idea of pushing in, but I don't think that there's really any way to do anything here.
Yeah, I think maybe he can have one of the Lings at the corner of the gate, but that's insignificant, basically. Now, Bisu's keeping enough Zealots in production that he can keep pressure on here, and that's going to force more Zerglings. The last thing you can really afford to do in this matchup is to allow the Zerg player to play his own game. The Zerg player has to be part of the dance in the matchup. The Protoss has to do this move and that move, and the Zerg has to be responding, because if the Protoss is static on the map and not really engaging with the Zerg can a lot of times really ramp it up as far as production goes and speed ahead, getting into a better position in the mid-game. And so pressure with these Zealots prevents drones from being made, because the Zerg has to meet that those Zealots with Lings here from his own side.
A lot of Lings coming in, trying to get a surround here against Bisu. Not a lot of room for him to actually micro, and it looks like he's going to lose everything very quickly.
Now this is not uncommon in the matchup, but it's very important that you force out those Lings early on, because you don't want them to have those too many drones like we saw. For instance, at the natural, it's going to be 3 drones total there.
Now that what I just saw looks to me like that was really bad for Bisu. How would you grade it exactly?
If we had a tab that could show the worker count, it would make a lot more sense. It's important to note that while this game's going on, the Protoss never stops making probes. And so even though the Protoss doesn't seem to have that much, the Zealots are fairly expendable. In this matchup, sometimes early on, they're kind of like Zerglings. I mean, you want to be efficient with them, of course. But what you oftentimes will see, and this is already exhibited a little bit in the supplies here, the Protoss is steering ahead. When you have enough probes on 2 bases, you get a lot of gateways very quickly. You have the upgrades coming out, you start to add Templars in, and keeping the Zerg low on the drone counts is one of the most important things. Now, I don't know how it maps out exactly mathematically, but not uncommon, and I think Bisu knows well enough it's better to try to push out with those Zealots and do something, at least force Lings. And if the Zerg isn't honest, then damage is done. Then to let the Zerg just drone up.
Well, right now it looks like Action is going into Muta Scourge, at least for a little bit here. Bisu did get up. He saw the second gas, so might have some idea that this could be occurring. Oh, the flank here! But of course, as Bisu pulls away in time, saves that Corsair. Very, very important, but the cannons are not quite up yet in the main base. Uh-oh!
Oh, this actually could end the game here. This is a very specific timing attack where you come in and hit as the cannons would be finishing. Cannons die very quickly if the animation isn't there. If it's just the warp in, same animation that you have as a pylon. If the Mutas can kill off these cannons, and then another set of Scourge can get on top of the Stargate, well then you're not going to be able to keep your main, and if you can't keep your main, you're probably not going to win this game. Scourge barely unable to get that last Corsair. I don't know if Zerg's going to remake Mutas, though. It seems like narrowly Bisu has actually survived this assault.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It still felt pretty good for Action because he definitely is in control of this game right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Action handled that about as well as he could have. I'm surprised that Bisu survived that. Funnily enough, the Dragoon coming out actually saved the day.
Yeah. Whenever I see that Goon come out, I'm like, oh, this Protoss knew he was in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's a sad Dragoon, too, because the Dragoon, like, normally dies. We see it, Action left when it had 1 hit point, so a little bit of a mistake, but whatever.
One thing about Mutalisks is that if there's a small number of Mutas, it takes a really long time to kill a Dragoon. It's
totally.
Dragoon is this spongy unit in that specific situation that can buy you time. Now, the follow-up attack here, since Protoss had to invest in anti-air, is to switch into the ground game here to try to get these Hydras to come up here to the front and try to do some damage over there.
This is very interesting, seeing 3 Goons. What do you think about that?
Well, if they overinvest in the Mutas, you can match it, right? You get the Corsairs, you get the Dragoons out, and you have some push potential. But for the Zerg to parlay this into Hydralisks is very difficult for the Protoss to deal with.
Right? Those Goons aren't going to do much for a while, right?
No, they're terrible against Hydras early on.
They're like really bad cannons.
Dragoons are basically very strong against Hydras after you have Templars in high numbers, you have Zealots, and you're trying to build up the final composition so that your Templars are safe. You can take on Lurkers, stuff like that. But yeah, in macro games, the Dragoons are sort of the last thing you add in, along with Observers, of course. And so the Hydra switch is pretty deadly. Now, since there is a Hydra switch, this allows Bisu to assert himself on the map by coming out with his own Corsairs and trying to threaten the Overlords, which, if there's Hydra pressure on at the Protoss's front, there shouldn't be that much defense inside the main.
Right now, flying around with 5+1 Corsairs here. One is very damaged, comes up, catches that immediately with some Scourge. And Bisu uses this opportunity to go ahead and charge out of his front. Does have that +1 on Zealot, so those Zerglings just get shredded in a matter of seconds.
So the pressure's on right now, and this is a great catch, actually, to get these Overlords. And this is something that Bisu does better than basically anybody else. I guess Rain's up there as well, but is he always manages to get the Overlords isolated. And if you can kill off Overlords repeatedly, you're hiccuping the production from the Zerg so heavily that it's really hard for the Zerg to maintain growth, especially against a 2-base powering Protoss.
I gotta tell you, like, I don't know exactly how Bisu lines up against his old self as far as his PvZ goes, but watching this right now, this feels very different from other Protosses that I watch. You know what I mean?
How so?
So, like, for instance, when the Mutas came in, I feel like a lot of Protosses kind of get really scared, and they're like over-microing Corsairs and things like that. But I felt like Bisu knew to sacrifice the Corsair. He got the Goon out. His cannon's just finished. It felt like he was still in control of those moments. And then, for instance, when he came back with the Corsairs, you mentioned he's very good at catching those Overlords. Yeah. But he moved away at the right time, realized, oh, I'm not going to get him, that's fine. I feel like he's not making mistakes I normally see in PvZ from other Protosses.
Yeah, he makes Protoss look so resilient in this matchup, which is funny because, you know, this is usually the problem matchup for Protoss players. It's a very tough matchup to play. And so he's going to have to back up. Now, when you see a wall-in like this, a very natural response from the Zerg is to do a Lurker Contain. This is a technique that's actually quite old. We've seen it in different variations throughout StarCraft's history, but it's basically always been good. And that's in part because Observers are just very bad units in general. They're slow and they're easy to kill, and Protoss is essentially entirely reliant on them for detection. I mean, you can do damage with Storm and stuff like that, but realistically, you have to have an Observer. So when you get contained like this, the Zerg will try to snipe the Observer as often as possible, and then the Lurkers just keep you boxed in, and you keep taking damage. In this case, Bisu takes an island. We'll see what Zerg does with that. Okay, here we go. He's moving out now. I don't see an Overlord to spot this, so these Hydras can't snipe the Observer. Oh, I'm sorry, there's Overlords to the far right, but
getting some decent storms, and look at that, he pushes these Hydras back. Did he just pick up? Does he actually have drop already?
I actually don't know.
I think he does.
It would make sense if he had drop.
Well, it drops right into quite a few cannons, but does pull those probes away in time. Not going to lose a ton of them.
I'm pretty impressed that Action opted to do this with, he knew there was going to be cannons here, but I guess it is a smart move, right? Do anything to keep the Protoss back.
Look at this. He's doing another lurker drop at the natural where all the probes went. Oh, huge volleys right there.
Beautiful play there. He's going to shuffle one lurker over to the side here.
That is a high IQ play right there, right? Because he's keeping him busy in the main base, and then comes the natural. That had potential to do almost game-ending probe damage, but Bisu a bit too quick. Loses a lot, but not too much.
One thing you want to watch for, too, is that the lurkers are kind of like tank Sartosis. You'll see tanks do a lot of damage in a drop, but every tank that's lost means the defense is going to be a little bit weaker there. And, when you see that, those lurkers taken out, mind blown, right? Well, it's a lot of gas. And when you see
I can totally see that because you have to build like a different building to build them that costs gas and gets an add-on to make them too, right? Oh, wait, no.
When you see those lurkers go down, though, it means you can actually maybe push in later on. Lurkers are the linchpin unit along with spore colonies and sunken colonies to kind of keep Protoss from just barreling over you. And wow, I guess the drop play makes even more sense when you see the island like this.
Yeah, right. Oh, and the Scourge are coming in. They pick off.
It's more than just a base. It's actually the fact that an expansion's lost. I think we're going to have to see Bisu now do real damage with this push, which is actually a real possibility here. Where does he attack? It looks like he's eyeing the third.
Yeah, it looks like he wants to go ahead and hit that right away. Obviously, you are missing a lot of units because you've been doing all these drops.
Wow.
Ooh.
These are very, very poor storms here.
Well, he gets in on top of some of these lurkers here. Another one does come up and grow. A lot of splash damage being dealt. A good size storm there from Bisu, though. Picks up another lurker before it can burrow. Getting on top of a ton of these Hydras as well.
Okay, he's getting further and further in here. And now the angles are actually quite bad for the Zerg. If he just gets a little bit more army in here, I think there's another macro round that's pushing out now across the map, headed towards the third as well. Now again, Protoss can sit on 2 base for a very long time. It's paramount that the Zerg keeps all of his expansions alive. Losing 1 or 2 expansions really gives the Protoss the momentum to bring this into a game that's absolutely doable. I think this lurker is just barely in range.
Just barely.
I was actually going to say the opposite, just out of range, but yeah, I saw the cannon continue to shoot it. Nicely placed cannon there by Bisu. Dragoons and Psystorm can really handle a scrappy Zerg army much better than Zealots can. And I think this positional fight is going to be a win here for Bisu, which is huge.
Wow. But he does need to get a third base up, right? I mean, Action does still have 3 bases going.
Okay, more drops coming in here. I'm not sure if this is the right idea.
Oh, he's trying to make something happen with these units he left on the island, but it looks like they are getting frozen up there. And Bisu continuing to push forward. Not sure he's going to be able to go up that ramp very well, though. Yeah, that does not look like a ramp I'd want to go up.
One thing about this map is you're going to have to decide very carefully where you want to try to push. Zerg on a high ground are so much better against Dragoon Observer.
Yeah.
It's almost not worth the Protoss even trying to take that fight.
You can't get up that ramp.
Yeah, well,
it's impossible.
Like you can try to storm it, but Dragoons fire slowly, and therefore any missed shot is very painful, whereas Hydras shoot so quickly. A missed shot can be looked over.
Well, especially when they're on the high ground against the low ground, they're not going to miss any shots.
Right.
Well, it's StarCraft 1, and they'll miss a couple shots here and there.
Sometimes that just happens. Okay, so supplies are fairly even, but the expansions are probably the more important story here. I guess the Zerg's position as well. So the island-based is lost, and I don't believe Bisu is going to try to reclaim that anytime soon. Action lost his third, but there's a natural third that's been taken over here. Now, when you see a Zerg take a natural, one of the benefits of that is it pretty much guarantees them the main in the back. And so you're trying to defend one location to have an easier time taking a 4th base. So let's see how Bisu takes this. There's basically, as far as pushes go, there's 2 options. Either you take out that 3rd base and try to defend counterattacks, or you push into the natural and try to kill Zerg at the heart by taking out the layer and the spawning pool and the spire and the den and all that tech.
Well, it seems like most of the units for Action are outside of his natural, which also kind of poses a threat to attack Bisu because it's relatively close by. Whereas if Bisu were to send his army to the 3rd, I think that he could break it relatively easily. But that does leave him open to counterattacks.
Yeah, remember that the Protoss is going to be draining the natural here pretty quickly.
Yeah, the main's gone.
There's just very critical point if you've stayed on 2 bases where you have to secure the 3rd, or even if it's a close game, the Zerg can just in a under a minute just zone you out of being able to do anything because they've cut off your income, and then they just make everything into lurkers and turtle, and they'll go for an exhaust play.
Well, Action is taking another base. He's dangerously close to Bisu's supply right now.
Right.
The closer that gets, the better it is for Zerg, generally speaking. Bisu's army is really good. He's having some very nice army movements here as well. Has a couple cannons at that third, so this little group of Lings I can't really imagine doing too much. Maybe he was trying to set up a drop or something. Maybe he's trying to pick off some High Templars, any units that are just sitting around. Not really getting too much done with them. But you know what? That's fine. Action, I think, would prefer to have both players just sit for a moment so he can get his fourth up.
Yeah. This is the moment where the Protoss has gotten very strong, but the Zerg can absolutely, in turtling play, make this work. It's a very different approach from a Zerg that's trying to go for a fight in the middle of the map. Let's say lots of Hydras and Mutas there to hit Templars. In this case, it's going to be Lurkers, Hydras to snipe Observers, and then just trying to power up. Remember that once Zerg has dropped, that's a permanent threat in the game. So if the Corsairs are ever taken out, the Zerg can start to drop various locations, and that's hard for the Protoss to deal with.
Bisu looks like he is getting ready to do something here. Starting to push over here, but of course that is high ground. He's missing a lot of shots on those Lurkers.
I was going to say, if that one storm in the middle hit both, I was going to be pretty impressed. This is very thin defense. But again, relying on hitting those Observers is always a good idea. And we saw it once again work. And every time you see the Observers killed, that buys an incredible amount of time for the Zerg to then remuster the defense, because the Protoss has to get an Observer out, has to get it back to the army.
Here's a quick question
Please.
for you. Does Protoss ever get Observer vision range in this matchup?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's good. I think you get it last, but you get speed always first.
Yeah, he doesn't have speed either right now, but it's been a crazy game.
Vision range is important. Now, some of the best Protosses I see them not get. No, I think he's got speed, right?
No, he doesn't have speed.
He doesn't
right
have
now.
speed?
No.
We've seen some of the best Protosses not get speed. I don't know how they do that. Like, truly, I don't understand how you could be that good when these things are so hard to keep alive.
Yeah, maybe they keep it alive without that. It costs the same amount of gas as a High Templar, right? So it's like, it is a big choice.
So right now, it's so important that Zerg keeps his position alive here. The Storms are getting very good, and Protoss is now onto the high ground.
Ooh, he is starting to break here. These Storms doing a great job. The Zealots spreading out and helping to clean up right now.
But he did get the Observer. Wait, no, there's another Observer. Beautifully done. One more Observer up with that group. +3 attack here. He's pushing. What's actually at the natural here? We need to scroll up.
Yeah,
I don't know what's there. I don't
look
know
like
if
there's very much.
Nothing. There's nothing there.
Oh, Action coming in with the rest of his forces, though. He does have quite a few units coming up from that third and fourth base area. Scourge coming in.
A lot of times you see the Protoss is broken here. A lot of times they push it. It seems like they're going to take it, and then it's the attack from behind that's just so strong.
Well, he got the last Observer, just targeting down the last High Templar as well. So definitely the rest of these units are going to get cleaned up. The Archons trying to get away, but they are not going to make it too far. A few units make it into the main base here of Action, but most of Bisu's army has evaporated.
That's right. Now, we see Action pulling away here. Keep in mind, the Protoss can lose that big army and usually remake it pretty quickly, especially with a third available. There's a gas at that third as well, which is important. But he's going to have to regroup. Now, it's, again, a Zerg on 4 bases. Sometimes I do wonder, by the way, Artosis, when you see them win that fight, are they supposed to back up and regroup?
It's such a good question, because like every time I see someone break a natural, whether it's the third base of Zerg or the natural Zerg, whenever they start to break it, there's always a gigantic flank and there's nowhere you can go, because all the units come from everywhere else on the map and hit it. So, I mean, every time I see a Protoss do that, they lose, but this is Bisu and I don't really want to question him.
I feel like Action's in a much better position. I think he absolutely can.
Yeah, it feels like that.
Can do this.
If Bisu had 4 bases, I would say otherwise, but oh my god. Oh, tasteless.
You
tasteless.
just know exactly where to put that. And suddenly you can't have the maximum amount of workers mining over there.
7 probes.
Oh my
dead.
god!
Oh no.
This is bad.
Good storm. Oh, tasteless.
Oh no.
Oh, things are going wrong.
One thing to keep in mind on this map if you just look at the way it's shaped, there's actually no easy fourth, especially with Zerg having drop. You can't just take the island.
Yeah,
Action prepared very well for the map. There's actually literally just nowhere to go. I mean, I guess hypothetically you could make cannons at the bottom left.
Yeah,
but this is so
a bit
easy
hard.
for Zerg to monitor, by the way.
Well, Action really has control of this game right now.
Plenty of other maps offer Protoss a fourth on the low ground. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say low ground. On a non-island. This map is not one of them. So I think right now the predicament, even though this has actually been a fairly scrappy game as far as supplies have gone, it's a game where Bisu just has to win with a push before his assets are depleted.
Well, this army is not breaking that.
No.
Sunken Ling Lurker with just Zealots and a few Psystorms is just never going to happen.
Right.
But I think that the fact that Bisu is running around a lot is an important aspect. Like, he's got to try to find good engagements. Unfortunately, it's not happening. Like, there's just too much.
GG. Great game here. Bisu has been taken out by, I think what's safe to say, one of the best modern Zergs that we have right now.
Yeah.
We are in a different era. Let's not forget that. As strong as Bisu is, Action can absolutely take him out. And I got to say, Action played the race, the matchup, the map perfectly. The player, too. I mean, he identified, I think Bisu was smart trying to slip into the island, but when you pair Lurker Tech with Overlord Speed, with drop, expanding at a slower rate, post a Muta Rush, not a bad way to play the game.
Yeah. Tough one there for Bisu, unfortunately.
Right.
It felt like when he lost that island base, everything was very tough from there on. Played a strong game, though, and maybe we'll see him again in the ace match. We'll see. I mean, he is Bisu, so definitely a chance.
This brings back so many memories, seeing all the pros sitting together,
Yeah, it's
conversing
very
in between
nice.
games.
It's very cool.